Okay. Let's see. So I had somebody sponsor this touchscreen panel. This is the WT32 86V, as opposed to the WT32 Plus, and I have a regular one actually right here. The original WT32 SC01. Not a bad touchscreen. Fair amount of I/O available to it. It does run a SPI display, just a standard TFT. The Plus is definitely where it's at. This is a control board for the Plus. It does have limited I/O broken out on it, but enough that I can use an Ethernet adapter. I've designed a newer one that will be more universal, rather than carrying multiple BOM items. I can just use this one item, and in the case of the Plus screen, it's just a plug and play item. And then for the regular display, I have an adapter that can adapt between this JST and the header to fit on the display. Just a very small adapter, it doesn't need to be big. And then I'll be making a similar adapter to mount to the back of the 2x10 connector that the square display has. The only problem is this board has no extra I/O. The only ones you could really use on here are the I2C lines, but the I2C is used by items on the board, so you would need you could only use it for I2C based stuff, and not for something like Ethernet. But it does have a few unpopulated pins that are not connected to anything. But it has an audio codec chip that has enough I/O to run Ethernet. I need 5 I/O lines, so I'm gonna. You could either desolder it, or for this purpose, I'm just gonna cut the tracks on it to show the simple way, and then solder on a couple bodge wires from the ESP S3 that's on here over to the header here. And then we should be able to get Ethernet out of it. So we can disconnect the speaker. Tweezers. There are a couple tabs around the board. Just be able to pop it up. Lift up the pieces here. This one is for a microphone board, which I had actually already damaged the microphone on it, so for all intents and purposes, I'm just gonna remove it completely. The TFT and touchscreen IC all run through this singular ribbon cable. Prop that up, pull the cable out, being relatively gentle with it. It's not too fragile, but it's fragile. And the board pops out. There's 1, 2, 3 retaining clips, and then the back piece, well, this piece fits over, and it clips in 1, 2, 3 spots, and then this back piece clips in to a few spots as well. I actually ordered the wrong revision of this Ethernet PoE. This one is 40 by 60 millimeters. The correct one is 42 by 38. So much smaller, and it should fit inside this, and then it should fit all your standard electrical boxes. Haha, good timing, Aaron. I was worried you had gone to bed. I wanted to do this sooner than later so that I can put the order in for the next batch, because if you want some, I'd rather order them now than have to place more than one order. And the other thing I've already done, which I'll end up ordering at the same time, along with my samples of the OXRS black rack controller. I'm ordering 2 just for validation testing. What thing I designed? So I designed this. So this little board should plug right into this 10-pin connector. It's rotated the wrong way around, but this is your 5 volts up here, which is 5 volt down here, so it should face this way and not interfere with anything. If I... Right. And it's got the... This is the wrong style, but it doesn't have the upper portion, the ones that I buy, but it's the correct footprint for a 1.25mm JST. Got the lettering on the bottom. A couple of fiducials. I'm starting to put fiducials on my designs because I'm going to get a PMP at some point. And it doesn't hurt to have a thing, so yeah, so I have one for the 86V, and I already have a breakout like this for the original screen, so that I only have to carry one PoE board and can just supply adapters. Hello, Keith. And then it'll come with the cable as well. Right now, I have these ridiculous sized cables. I have ordered shorter ones for this purpose. These ones are from a different project. But yeah, so I have an adapter ready to go for it. And so the already marked out. Obviously, the easiest way to do it is just to hot air the IC, remove it. You've got what you needed, but obviously, maybe not everyone's gonna have a hot air station. From the looks of it, the traces are accessible on this, so I'm going to use my microscope and show just cutting the traces and then soldering the wires onto the ESP. Again, I've went in and edited this document so that I could make notes, and then found the document for the actual IC and just remarked the pins on that one as well. Let's see here. we go in, and your IC is over here. Let's see if I can... There is your dot marking pin 1 over by, should be pin 1 there if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that would be your 100 ohm resistor over by R20. Yeah, just checking the schematic. Yeah, it's R20. So that trace right on that via is the one you would want to cut, and then the other ones you want to cut are the bottom 3 by C22. Those bottom 3 traces need to be cut. They go over here to some vias, and then the other one you want to cut okay, yeah, so this is why I'm going to show that I can just use an X-Acto knife and cut these traces. Hello, Johnny. Oh, Johnny, that reminds me. You were talking about controlling LED glow lights. Should have one here. Where is it? Let me just switch views for a second. I have these. I had somebody that wanted them and then ghosted me very annoyingly. So I have some of these. These are my LED controllers. Now you said your lights are under an amp, so this would be overkill. But it has firmware and everything ready to go for them. ESP8266 on it. Grow lights, I think is what Johnny said they were. So if you want something pre-made, I have them. Yeah. Designed for 12 or 24 volts as well. So zoom out so that I have some space to get my X-Acto knife under here. Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense why you're making something custom then. Okay. See, Aaron wants to know if this display can work on Ethernet. That's why Aaron's still awake. So, X-Acto knife. So, first one we need to cut is this one here. Yes, I'm actually using this knife upside down. My tip is slightly blunt, which I find actually works very well for gouging a trace out. Yep, that's cut. So that one's done, and then the other ones that need to be cut are 1, 2, and 3. So I'm probably just gonna go right across them. Actually, number 4 as well. Yeah, so these 4 need to be cut. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. I just gouged a little on the ground plane, but all good. And I kind of cut that slightly, but I think it's still connected, not that it truly matters. I have no idea. I'd suspect it's a 2-layer. Is it 2? No, I think it's a multi-layer, to be honest. Yeah, it's a multi-layer with blinds, because look at that trace right there. Oh no, it comes all the way through. Never mind. It might be 2 layers, to be honest. It's a fairly decently laid out board. Decent traces going everywhere. Problem with the Dremel is you'd need a relatively fine bit to cut it. Now granted, the traces you end up needing to cut are, let's rotate this, come all the way around here. The only issue is there's a 5th one here that you don't actually need to cut. So I just cut the 4 that I actually needed to cut. Did I? Let's fix that. I'm not sure if I cut that last one well enough. Hello, Superhouse. Yeah, there's many tools you could probably use to do this. Obviously, the easiest way would just be for me to use my hot air gun, but I wanted to show the simple, well, the basic way of doing this, because I somewhat assumed correctly that Aaron might not have all the tools. So that one's cut, and then the 4 lines there are cut, which means I can come over to here. Oh, I can give an update to circuit boards. So some worked, some didn't. The new battery board for the project, I can set it in the drawer up here. Yeah, there it is. New battery board worked. My last stream, which I did in the middle of the day, I tried a different charging chip, same class as the one originally, and then I was trying to connect it to my computer using, I found on AliExpress a cheaper version of the control module that TI sells. TI sells it for like $400. I got it for $50 on AliExpress. So hooray. But TI had named the file wrong, and thus it wasn't opening correctly. So once I fixed that, I actually got it to communicate, and then found out why it wasn't actually charging, which is by default it charges at 2 amps, even though it is correctly set with a current input limit, and thus it doesn't actually destroy my power supply, but it doesn't try to adjust itself, which is just silly. Like the other chip, it has built-in watchdog, so set to 40 seconds. So if you set a charge current on it, it always tries to reset itself unless you resend the command, which I really hate. That's a very terrible failsafe, whereas the other chip initially charges at its second lowest charge current, and the watchdog timer resets to that value, which is better because that's an actual failsafe that's protecting everything. So instead, I'm disabling the watchdog because I don't ever expect to charge at 2 amps. And in my programming, everything essentially is fused and has the ability to be turned on and off. So if any of the MCUs stop talking to each other, they'll turn themselves off, and if anything else, fuses would go off. So yeah, just annoying to find that the hard way. The other thing I found out the hard way is the PS RAM on this S3 is using the pins that I tried using for the SPI connection. So hooray! So I'm fixing that. I was still trying to do some bodge testing with the USB hub IC. I partially got it communicating, but it didn't fully want to work. So it's just being unreliable, which is very annoying. I also made a power supply PCB and just went back to my old faithful LM regulators, and it works fantastically. So that's not an issue. Because of that SPI issue, I'm redoing the base station as well. I'm not even going to assemble the latest revision for it. I'm just going to skip right over it. There's one board left to assemble, which is the printer power supply board. I'll assemble that at some point. But it is fully, it should fully work. The only thing on it is LM regulators and P-channel MOSFETs, which I did a test. Where did I put it? I did a test with the same FET I was using before, but instead of N channel, it's a P channel, and it's being controlled with NAO 34,000 N channel FET to turn it on and off, and it works fantastically. So I know that will work. And to get the printer to work, I'm going to make a separate control board that can run the screen. And I know the USB hub IC can work on an ESP32. So I'm going to use the S3 to run the display, run Wi-Fi, run the NRF, run SD code, buzzer, and it has some a serial port for RFID, some I2C connections that I'm not sure I'll actually use, but they're there if I need them, and then talk serial to an ESP32, which then talks SPI to the USB. Absolutely overkill, but it should do the trick. Not really going to use Wi-Fi on this. The only reason I'm going with the module, not the raw IC, is because I have the modules on hand. I don't really want to wait for shipping for a singular part. Should only need one of these control boards because I'm only doing one printer. But this one, I'm a little more confident should work. Just annoying to go through all the hoops. Oh, I just realized I didn't have the view set. Let me reopen that. Basically, another screen control board, but it's got the S3 and ESP32, so that it can control the printer through SPI and whatnot. Now, with this, so the pins we want are over here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pin 6 and 7 on this side get used, and we go pins 1, 2, skip 1, and then I'd use the other one here. Those 5 pins should give us Ethernet. And I have some enamel wire. Now, these are non-connected pins. I want to make sure they didn't do something silly, decide to connect them to ground. Because the copper fill looks really close to it all. So that should be ground. That is indeed ground. Okay. No. Okay. So they are indeed non-connected pins, which is a good sign. So we need so let's put some solder on in this. And pin 3, so, well, it's pin 4 because we're skipping one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. We can bend our wire around. And unconnected pins. So we need 5 pins. So because space is tight on this side, I think I can do it. Let's see. Cut it there. I'll show this under the microscope once I have it in place. Take the tweezers, bend it sharply, put a bit of solder on that. probably should add some pre-solder to these pins, because they probably used lead free. Long term, you could probably add some hot glue to it to kind of protect it as well. But I'll show you this first one under webcam. No, wrong view. Under microscope. But I'll do the rest of them under my overhead camera. That's not touching, by the way, and it's actually floating above it. But it comes around to that pin there. And I'll do the rest of them and then I'll show you the final thing. No, it's actually enamel coated wire. It just has a clear enamel. Although not the best of enamels, so I try to keep it from not shorting on things. It's just what I keep a roll of on my desk. It's good stuff. It surprisingly lasted quite a while. Pretty much. Granted, probably not the best thing to be burning it with the iron, but it works. The colored enamel wire that you typically come across, that stuff, you pretty much have to burn off with a lighter or scrape it off with a knife. This stuff seems to burn off fairly easily. Just making sure that with this covers on that it's not going to end up pushing anything. Also, why you'd probably want some hot glue on it to stabilize the wires from any vibrations or anything. I do think it's a very terrible missed opportunity that they I can sort of understand having the microphone and speaker on this display, but I don't know. Ethernet PoE I think is a much better option. Even if you put some jumper pads so that somebody could easily disable this and run the I/O to this breakout, I think would have been a nicer option. But the fact that the only breakout you essentially get is RS485 or I2C is not very useful to most people. The gauge of this, I've had it for quite a while. The label is unfortunately wearing out. I think it's 26 gauge. I know I bought two types. The other one that I have is really thick. Let's see. This is 24 gauge. And then the other one that I have is 14 gauge. This is 790 feet of it. The other one is an 80-foot roll. And I've still got a fair amount of that too. This one, we're going one, two, three, four, five, maybe 6 is the pad I want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure if I can get the ion in there, can I? No, I can't. Okay. So in that case, I'll move this one to this side. Actually, that's too short. So let's desolder that. Make it be 1. One of the non-connect pins is kind of blocked from being reached with a soldering iron, and I need 2 extra pins. So the better option is going to be to use this non-connected pin for this one spot here. And I have too much solder on the soldering iron and just shorted out these pins. So let's desolder that. Clean out these pins. just show it again. Let's try this again. There we go. Back to this one. And it's remembering its position, but I need it to tin it first. There we go. Let's rotate it this way. And one more. That comes. There. It's not too bad. The castellated pins on the ESP tend to be slightly hardest. Thankfully the pads on these ones are fairly long, so it's just a matter of having good solder, a clean soldering iron without excess solder on it. Otherwise you're bound to short them out. Extra flux can't hurt if you have it. Just gotta take your time. There's no rush. I'd rather it work than short out or whatever. So, I'll show you here. Nope. That view. One of these days I'll put a button that can automatically switch, so all I have to do is hit a button on the microscope and switch views. But so those are the pins that I'm using, and a couple pins over there, and again that's not actually touching the button, nor is it touching that capacitor that's underneath, and it makes its way around. And so we're using 3 of the non-connected pins on that side, 2 on that side, because the other non-connected pin is this one right here, and you can't get your iron between here and there. Maybe a really fine tip iron could, but I normally keep this tip on my iron, and it works absurdly well. But definitely not small enough to get into a space like that. So just easier to go to that one there. But with that done, should just be a matter of setting up some pins. Now, I couldn't actually find a pin header that was 2mm pitch, which is what this is. Thought I had some left over from what I've done prior WT32 PoE boards, but I could not find them, so I'm gonna try pulling some pins out, just using the actual pins themselves. Hopefully these will fit properly. Maybe? Yeah, there we go. Now, need to connect Ethernet and serial. Although I might be able to get away with doing serial on the connector over here. Open. Number 8 is not used. .5V. And actually, just so that they don't touch, let's do that. just gonna bend these pins to kind of keep them from touching each other. And then just want to make sure I use the right pins. And oh, that's the wrong one. That's the new one. Let's open. This is your 5 volts. Tin the tops of these. So 5 volts to there. Ground is the next wire. And then, doesn't really matter the order, because you can change it in software. That is Ethernet PoE connected, and then the only thing left is I need a way to program it. Oh, they didn't put USB on this one. Oh, interesting. All the other boards have always had a way to program it. They didn't even put a connector for programming. They cheaped out on this one. My goodness. Because at least with the plus screen, it has a debug connector for the breakouts, which is just a 1.25 JST. Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do for this. Is just tap into the lines. I've bought so many screens from them that I have a whole whack of these programmers now. Yeah. I've started putting these connectors on my projects now because it's so much nicer to just use these JST connectors. And it's a much more reliable connection, I find. So 2 I don't need. flatten these wires. Basically took an extra one of these GST cables and lopped the end off because I don't have any extra of these 7-pin cables that are just single-sided. Now, this is RX. No idea if these need to be swapped or not, so let's just try it and find out. I'm gonna add solder to these. They put some small copper rings on these pads. Oh my goodness. Potentially, but the big problem with that is it significantly raises your costs. It's the part of the reason I wanted to do the PoE as a compact thing is that this newest revision of PoE actually costs less than the old one, and almost entirely because all the SMD parts are on the one side. So I can get it done through JLC service. The OXR Black, it's capable of being entirely done. What do you call it? By JLC. So something I'm actually likely going to end up doing is uploading fabrication files. Most of my designs, a lot of it can be done by GLC. Anything extra obviously would be up to somebody to solder in themselves. But I like open source, and there's really no harm in putting up the 3 extra files, because enough information's already there that it wouldn't be hard for someone to generate it, and I could just kind of skip the step and make it a little easier for people. And then I've also been looking at what's it called? Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Actually, likely yes, because I talked to them about buying just plus screens for my project. At the time, they couldn't offer that, so I just bought them with circuit boards in them, and I'm replacing them anyways. But they did tell me that they were able to source them from their supplier without the boards in place. So it is possible to buy them without the board. But you'd have to do a decent order quantity for it. That was the other thing they mentioned. So that's connected. So USB. That's USB connected. Let's just lay that down so it stops moving. Oh, I need to get a different audio system. Right now I have a really big old school 90s stereo amp that I use to run my headphones. Not only does it put off an absurd amount of heat, but it takes up a fair amount of space. I need to get a proper headphone amp that can use up less space on my desk, and then the monitor that's sitting on top of it, I can easily put a mount up for it and make myself a little bit more space on my desk. Still things to do even after doing my little bit of a reno. Oh right, the other thing I was looking at was these two programs. Let's see here. Switch the view, document view. I was looking at this program from MakerFabs and Siege Studio. Has a co-create program as well. So essentially, from what I understand, both have a solution where essentially they would do all the production, testing, fulfilling, shipping, and then I get a small amount of the profits. So rather than me having to source and constantly keep up with it, somebody else can do it. Like, I don't mind doing things here and there, but I do get busy. And I also don't have the capital to front a lot of things. Like, I still want to get myself a PMP machine, but mostly just for, like, the one-off kind of stuff. Like, even the stuff I've been doing for this, like, that's a lot of... Well, it's not just a lot of parts for the one board, but the fact that I gotta make multiple boards, it adds up in part quantity, whereas just like a PMP that I can pull out every once in a while, like I don't need anything super high end, which is why I was looking at the Lumen PMP, because I think it'd be more than enough for me to play around with and kind of get my feet wet on how PMPs work and how to better design boards for working with a PMP machine. So, yeah. But, what I need now is... absolutely not. So, I knew a guy in college, that was actually in the electrical engineering program. And it's funny, because I was like, oh, maybe I'll take that program after I'm done my other program. And he's like, don't take it. Your knowledge is already way beyond the course. You're going to be twiddling your thumbs. So, interesting to know. But he started doing contract work for a company. And they were setting some lofty, like, deadlines out of the blue for things. I think it was because their prior engineer was just taking their sweet time at it, so they kind of got frustrated and just wanted things done. But at the same time, they were shooting themselves in the foot. Like, they wanted this newest prototype to be assembled for testing within 24 hours. Even at 48 to 72 hours, which is what most of the shops local were offering, I think like only a few were even going to consider attempting to do it within 24 hours. They were all quoting over $5,000. It was absolutely bonkers. Like, no prototype is worth that kind of cash for turnaround. Like, no. I don't care what angel investors you have. That is just a stupid way to piss away money. So this is our touch panel firmware, which I did get to work on the what do you call it? Plus screen. So I can copy this, put it down here. I'm going to change a few things. Oh yeah, we are using different settings. Interesting. So let's change the board information. And change the flag. Change that. Did I not save those flags? I think I have a project open that still sets. So with the S3, if you're using the USB, it sets this, and then you don't get serial information on your RX or TX, which took me quite a while to chase down at one point when I was like, why am I getting nothing on my serial terminal? It's because it's trying to use USB. And then oh right, need to set the pins that we're using. Let's see here. So, CS is using that pin there, which comes to IO21. That is IO21. So CS pin. '21. Let's change. D6V. The next pin is clock, which is the blue wire, which comes to here, which comes around to IO39. The next one is SDO. which is MI. So the next one. So that's one is reset STI. STO is white, which is that second pin, which is pin 47. And then you have the ground, which is going to be IO38, and then that leaves IO48. Save that, it should start building it. And what I can do is put it back in its case and connect it back up to the screen. Oh, helps if I remove the speaker cable from under it. Weird that it doesn't want to click in. Why not? Nothing protruding. Just wants a little bit of force, I guess. There we go. And then we can connect a TFT cable. Should be able to flip that around and be good. Ooh, nice. Looks like we're ready. Go into here, and this one. Yeah, there's quite a few case options already out there. I have a few on my GitHub, but they are for the original display. I have not made one for the new displays. There we go. Let's at least see if it's going to compile first, before I try uploading. Actually, I just realized, with this display, it doesn't even have USB, so there's no way to power it for testing, except through the external connector. That's annoying. And considering the external connector is a 2mm pitch thing, that all that yellow, yeah, I'm not worried about that. It's because it's defined in the board file. The file for this is defining these items as one, but I'm changing it. Like, if you're gonna use a 2mm pitch header, you might as well include the thing for it so that at least somebody has a head start. Yeah. It's why, like, one of the things I'd want to do, especially with all the mess I've had to do with this stuff, I really want to make more breakout boards that have, like, JST connectors and quick connectors and stuff like that on them, so that, like, if I need to prototype and test things, I can better test things than just constantly doing revisions for a project. Ta-da! Cool. So that is ready for an upload. So let's power it up. I would have expected it to have some sort of default program. Unless, of course, it's because I've cut those spy lines that it's freaking out over it. Because does the demo use the speaker at all? Well, let's see if it communicates. Yeah. Well, let's see. Doesn't even have a power LED? What? Oh, yeah, now it's coming on. Oh, yeah, that's a really bad demo. Well, that just... yeah. It's connecting. Okay, so my first thought is my RX and TX might need to be swapped. So let's try depinning and swapping. The other downside to this display is it's in white. I wish it was a black case, but that's my own preference. Not that it would be too hard for me to fix that. Oh. Yeah, seeing data now. Yeah, it's seeing a problem with something. I'm hoping that's just because I've I'm hoping that's just because I've severed those wires that it's having an issue. Oh no, I need to re-upload now because it failed the upload. That's showing oh god, that looks like crap. Oh my gosh, it's doing like a jittery effect. Oh, there it goes. Now we're uploading. Oh, oh, that looks beautiful. Oh, that logo looks so good. And we got an IP address. We have an IP address, folks. .40, set up MQTT. Do the password off screen. Oh, I don't have the password preset, so I had to type it in anyways. Oh well. MQTT connected. And oh, John, you still hanging out? Yeah, the whole reason I'm doing this is because these panels, the square ones, are better for the UK. So Aaron wanted to use these, but obviously it doesn't have built-in spy lines and whatnot. So Aaron tasked me with hacking it, and graciously paid for the display for me to hack. I'm gonna move that back to its spot on that, and I can open Node-RED. And we can go. I think I have some sort of a demo in here. Or at least I did. Is it on this one? No. Testing there. Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's try that with T. I'm going to use a manual inject. Oh, have fun. I don't think I'll be streaming too much longer. Yeah, the other thing I have to do is I pre-bought these in preparation to ordering the RX Black to test, but these are the KNX adapters for it. So I have the connectors to solder in for them. I was going to open orxos.io. Which has gotten some updates lately, which is nice. Yep, if I ever do my own place, I have a feeling I'll be adding KNX. It's not common here, but I can import it, and it is licensed for here, so it just seems like a good system overall, to be honest. Especially because I think they have a module that can do dimming. Which is the one reason that I kind of like it. Although, granted, I have my LED controllers, so yeah. Firmware. Touch panel. Let's just grab a collection of items. Oh, I don't need to trim that down. Color picker, button. Have we made a section of the built-in icons yet? Because we should totally do that. A section that tells you all the names of the default icons. Ooh, we added a section on the keypad. Nice. Honestly, with the larger screen, I could see myself installing these in a few spots. Slowly making this house smart. Wait, did we set up, Oh, it does have it set up. Awesome. Oh, I think the section that doesn't have it is the send commands. Yeah. Send command doesn't have anything in it, but the config does. Nice. Tiles. Icon. Ah, it does. Nice. Tile 3, and let's do one more tile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do tile 8. And for tile 8, let's do it in... I haven't actually looked at the remote yet, so let's do that. Control screen. No, that's Link. Remote. Yeah. Considering I'm going to end up using the same display and drivers, I can only hope that what I'm building for my client could come anywhere close to what mine's done. But for my kind of learning style, it's going to be very nice that at least I have the firmware to look back on. It's not just the back end is amazing, it's the thought process of how everything can interact and be customized, the custom logos, the snapshot and of it, and the like even with the small screens we put on the rack displays, the general idea of like how to lay it, the UI essentially is just, yeah, that it takes some good skills to be able to do it. That is for sure. That's done, and it needs to go. The problem with that, so part of the reason we've not done that on absolutely anything and used Node-RED as an engine is because you can set rules in your MQTT broker so that only certain topics can go through. And with OXRS, our set list of topics is extremely narrow. So it just gives you that extra level of security when you're trying to isolate things and keep things secure. That was the whole reason we did that. And yeah, that's the other aspect is, especially with Home Assistant, some things like seeing on in capital letters or like seeing on in lowercase. It's just way too much standard, so to speak. And it gets even worse when you try to factor matter into it. Oh, we're making a new open standard and everyone can follow it. Oh my god. Like, it's USB-C all over again. It's a standard that nobody can actually agree on. Plus, with Node-RED, it's so much easier to debug something when something doesn't want to work, because it's all in one spot. So this instance of Node-RED is actually running on my local machine, and I've started this one up so that I can keep the one that's on my other machine strictly running all my production stuff. I'm looking at getting a used server actually to do some more messing around and learning, and I'd like to get the media off this machine and onto an actual server, just for better keeping. That, and I want to set up a TV in my loft bed area, and it'll be nicer to stream onto that. So the easiest option I can think of off the top of my head is, so for the other project I'm working on for the client, one of the other aspects of the project is to build a gift card ATM machine. So I'll have to get to that at some point. Probably get to that either when I'm waiting for the next set of circuit boards, or I'll do it likely after I've done a demo. Once I got demo software ready to go, because that meeting is in July for my first demonstration. So one of the things for that project is the machine will have a terminal on it. So to run that terminal, I picked up for $120 a nice Lenovo tiny computer that was refurbished. The only thing I did on it was swap out its hard drive for an SSD, and I've got Linux Mint on it, and that thing boots in 11 seconds. Put Mint on it, put Node-RED on it, set up your rules to boot on power up, and that thing is off to the races. Don't have to poke it, don't have to do anything, and it's a relatively simple thing to work with. Plus, Node-RED's got more than enough integrations and stuff behind it that you're pretty much great. And the fact that the touch panel firmware now has the what do you call it? The web version as well. You don't even need something like Home Assistant to run everything. It's just you could use that to run it all in a nice, simple, easy to use interface. The only thing for myself I could see being useful is I'm not sure if John's still here, but that Ethernet switch that he was looking at doing, if you add in PoE to that, because I was looking at PoE chips because I might experiment myself. It'd just be super handy if you're running a bunch of these touch screens and you want to conserve power or something. You could turn them off. You could see how much power everything's using. Just so many things you could do with it. You could design the switch to tie into something like the PDU, which there's two things I've been thinking about. Doing a modular design on both the PDU and the smoke alarm system. But I have a breakout idea for the smoke alarm that I might test instead, that would eliminate the need for its own board. But besides that, do a custom breakout. And then what I can do is the stuff I've been doing with the battery pack, the ICs for that, I can actually reuse those, and design a battery backup to plug into the PDU. The only thing that wouldn't be supplied with that is the lithium batteries. That would be up to someone to source themselves, because I will not ship lithium. Like, I do not want that hassle, and it would get expensive very quickly. But if you tie it all in together, you'd have an Ethernet switch with PoE, with a battery backup. Your whole OXRS system can have battery backup. You have KNX support. If you use the Oxys Black, it has RS485, so you could even use that to tie in as backup for network failures. Yeah. But with a PoE switch that's tied into the system and has battery backup, you can see how much power things are using, and you could pick and choose what you want to maintain functionality in your house, and how much power you have till things start needing to be turned off. Just be a super cohesive setup, so to speak. Alright, I need to change the topic on this. Settings. Oh no. Why is the settings not working? Or is it touch that's not working on this? Oh no. I don't think touch is working. Yes. Oh yeah, no, it would totally be modular. So like if I redo the PDU, I would design it in the modular format board that I've been doing. Everything would be modular. I don't think you would be able to do that with a PoE switch though, because of the what do you call it? Yeah. Why is touch not working? I'm not tapped into it. I wonder if it's that audio IC is And it doesn't throw an error for the touch. No, it's connected on the main ribbon. I'm wondering if, because I've cut the traces on the audio IC, that it might be interfering. So you got touch panel SCL SDA, and they SCL SDA IO 6 and 7. Yeah, see, it's using it here. So if I isolate this, it might work. Let's see. Pins is that? There's those pins there. There's the magnifying glass. The Greek food was absolutely fantastic. A coworker of mine suggested it to me. Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna cut it now. Checking to see if I can tell which traces it is. Should be these two. That doesn't look right. See, this one isn't connected to anything, but these ones are. It's a it was rice, potatoes, hero, and a salad and pita, and they make their own tzatziki, which was absolutely delicious. This is it here. I didn't even eat it all. I took some of the meat, shoved it in the pita, added some rice to it, put some tzatziki on it, had some of the potatoes, had the salad. I have no idea what the dressing was for the salad, but oh, fantastic. So good. This pinout doesn't really match what I'm seeing. As I'm seeing that, and then I'm not seeing that. I think this whole chip just needs to go. Granted, you could always cut every single trace on this board to it. But, yeah, touch is not currently working, so I want to make sure that it can actually work. So I'm going to use my hot air and fix that, but let's at least send a payload to it. So I'll go into the admin UI and grab the ID. Well, all the traces around it are accessible, so you could just cut them all, and that would isolate it. I have no idea if it has a thermal pad or not. If it has a ground pad underneath it, then the TS100 won't entirely help you in that instance. A torch might get it off. So that's the screen there. And this is what I love about the IPS displays. Like, the contrast is just bloody fantastic. Honestly, you could probably take it off with the side cutters. It'd probably chip it off in a few chunks. Just have to make sure there's no shorts after the fact. Oh, that's great. Yeah. That looks great. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Okay, so let's depower. Let's pull this out. Oh, need to get the ribbon cable off. And hot air. And flux. A little bit too much flux, said no one ever. Let the hot air heat up. There we go. It's being stubborn. Come on. I'm thinking it's got a ground pad on the underside of it. Yep, it's got a ground pad. Give that some time to cool off. In the meantime, I will solder one of these together. Probably. I've never actually used a hot plate. Don't actually need this USB cable anymore. Just let that cool off for a few moments. And this is why I always solder one pin on these types of connectors first. Make sure that it sits level. It shouldn't, because the touch panel firmware shouldn't be touching it. If it was going to cause errors, I would have expected errors during the demo thing, which we were seeing some, which is why I'm thinking it was causing problems, because I never powered it up before removing the lines from it that I removed. And that USB's plugged into the rack still. It's a retractable USB cable. Well, it's a cable extender, but it's retractable. And it's still plugged into the rack, so I can always pull it out if I need to. And one there. It's probably cooled down by now. I just have one more of these left. I'm not gonna do a full batch of all the pins just yet. I'll do all the pins on it in a moment. Yeah. 9 of them ready for full soldering. Which I'll do in a bit. Let's... yeah, that's cooled off now. Well, nothing's touching nothing, so let's try it again. Powering up. Yep, there we go. That was definitely the issue. Wow, it's got a better backlight on this. Jeez, backlight at 0 is like... yeah, I really need to swap out the panel that's on my wall. But yeah, the backlight on this is many times better than the Plus. Like, wow. It goes much brighter. It's also a cold white, which is a little bit nicer. Makes the whites whiter. Which sounds very terrible to say. And send a config. Ooh, nice. Oh, that's just fantastic. Oh, yeah. That is nice. I like it. Ship it. Yeah. Well, you could do cutting, because all the choices are accessible to the chip. Because that's the whole purpose. Why I wanted to show cutting as a possible solution is that not everyone might have the tools to modify it, but maybe they're half decent at just using a soldering iron. So at least with this, I see it would just be a matter of making sure you cut all the way around all the pins. But yeah, obviously the easiest, I think, is just remove that IC and you're good to go. But yeah, that is pretty darn nifty. run an Ethernet PoE. Gotta get a photo for the Discord. Yeah, if you want the PoEs, Aaron, you can buy them, and I'll order them as soon as you want. Oh yes, yeah, no, I'll definitely do the boards for you. Right, Discord. Okay, so can close that, and go into here. I can. So the pens that I used. My heart air gun for removing that chip, I had it set to about 330. Sometimes I can get away with like 260-ish, 280. You definitely have to take consideration to what components are around it. And how much airspeed you're running and stuff like that, so that you're not burning other parts that you don't want to, or you're overly heat soaking things that aren't tolerant to it. Yeah, I'll look at this. Really dislike how power inefficient the W5500 is. This thing runs warm. It hasn't been bad overall. Like, the one that's running on my wall is like, it's all the same circuitry as this one. Now it might run slightly warmer now that the new Breakout has everything so close together. Yeah. But my room right now is sitting at 30 degrees, and the one on my wall is sitting at 41.3. So yeah, I'm running a little warm. Yeah, the machine I'm using But having flux is definitely something you want to have around. The water-based flux pen that I'm using isn't too bad, but there's other stuff that tends to be slightly better. Just writing in Discord, so let's see here. The machine that I have is this one. This is the machine that I'm running for my hot air, and it's been a workhorse. I've had it for since 2017-ish. Yeah, it's what it was initially. It was how I was doing circuit boards, and then I got my T962, which made a whole heck of a lot of difference. Oh my gosh, getting a soldering oven was like the best thing ever. Yeah, fantastic. Let me see. This is some flux that is slightly better. This stuff doesn't dissipate as quickly when you're using. Doesn't dissipate as quickly, and it actually sticks around. Which kind of protects other components, but also makes sure that your solder paste doesn't go bad. The other thing I use this for is I use it a lot for heat shrink as well, because you can fully control the temperature on it. I find it works extremely well for doing heat shrink. A little more wieldy than the heat gun that I have. And I absolutely do not use a lighter when doing heat shrinking. And and actually probably. Let's see here. It tops out at 450, and I think that's Celsius. So yeah, you could probably toast a marshmallow. Not that, yeah. Not the most efficient use of it, but probably do it. Right, so the pins that I used are this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I'm gonna be nice and leave a note. Let's just fix this up. So, really? That's it? I would have, like, I know it's essentially pure sugar, but, I thought sugar took a much higher temp to yeah, I would have thought sugar needed a higher temp than that, to be honest. Let's see. think I got mine from Adafruit actually, way back when. Yeah, Adafruit sells it. It's definitely where I got mine from. I'm pretty sure of it. Right. Look at the firmware here. Chip select. I used IO10. So apparently if you wanted to do marshmallows in the oven, they recommend 400 degrees. But that's in Fahrenheit. Which is 200 in Celsius. So, it's still possible. Make sure I'm using the right ones. No, I'm using the wrong ones. CS is 21. Clock is 39. Yeah, the sun's almost finished going down over here. It's been a hot one today. Ooh, scorcher, I tell you. I won't be at this too much longer. Want to get this put together, and then I'll take an order from Aaron, and then go off and order from JLC. Yeah, hopefully I'll have more success soon. Well, I had 2 boards that success, and then 3 that need work. Well, no. 2 need work. A 3rd one still needs to be assembled. Right. So, I used pin 21 here. And then pin 29 there. I think. No. That would have to be on this side. Next one is there, which is 47. Oh, that's supposed to be IO 47. And then top one is 48. That'd be a reset. And then that makes this 38 and 39. Now, update this. Oh. That version of the logo was too large, so I custom imported it and resized it. Save, update. There. Save again. Just need to do the traces. Ah, wrong pen. Making the ground go all the way around. And then likely gonna have to do, let's change to a smaller. How small the trace does it need to be? Oh, it doesn't even fit that. Oh no. it's gonna need to be that size, I'm probably better off changing all of these to match. Otherwise it's just gonna bug me. The only one that really needs to be large is the power and ground. It's such a short distance that it's not gonna make enough of a difference for these signal lines. At least I don't suspect it will. If you're trying to go a distance with these, then maybe. But and it passes DRC. Now, how large is that? So that comes in at 16. So let's actually measure from the pen header to the edge here. That's 14 millimeters. So it comes out to there. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be too much of an interference. Should work. I don't see why it wouldn't. Oh yeah, that thing's getting warm. You'll definitely want to use brightness control, because I'm betting that backlight is probably sucking a good amount of power, just heating up that regulator. Trying to see where the openings end up. I think it's gonna fit. Kind of a weird shape on this back. But yeah, okay, cool. So the only thing I need to do is export for fabrication. Yeah, that's what no, what I was mainly worried about is the adapter fitting around the openings here. That's what I was worried about. But it should fit, no problem. And there's the fabrication files done. Um... Hmm. Yeah. How do I indicate that? Do I write like 5 volts here and then just kind of assume, well, that doesn't help you because if you got the cover on, it covers the silk screen that's on the circuit board that tells you the pinout. But how do you know which one's top and bottom? Because not everyone's going to hold it in the same way. If I'm looking at it like this, you could say this is top and this is bottom. But if somebody's looking at it like this, then this is top and this is bottom. So, let's see. So that should point towards the speaker. Should it say speaker this way, or is this fine? Cool. I'll be sure to add stuff like this to the, I think in my last push for the website, I did not do a page for the PoE because I knew I was doing an update on it. Yeah, I didn't do an update for it. So that'll be something that I add to that. I don't have too much that's not been updated yet on that website. Some firmware stuff, but I did a big push to get things updated because Ben was installing stuff. But let's re-export that. So did you want your usual 15, or what were you hoping to order? So the pricing on these new PoEs is actually better than the old ones. So I can send you the details on the Discord. Correct. So that's done. Those files are ready to go. I could include some if you want me to. I don't mind. I don't mind lopping off a section of this. Like I said, I've had this spool for ages. Oh, yes. Now that I turned down the brightness, the PoE is cooling off. Oh, yeah. $15 boards. Yeah, they'd be a fair bit. I still think I can do it. But, yeah. Of course. Always happy to help. And if anything, if you have great difficulty with it, you could always remove the boards from it and ship them over to me. I wouldn't be opposed to soldering them up for you if you need to, if they give you too much trouble. I don't understand some people these days. Somebody posted a video on social media the other day, just after one of our long weekends. So that particular long weekend happened to involve fireworks, so of course people get their hands on fireworks. And there have been a few instances of these people setting them off on public transit buses in one of our bigger cities. But they posted a video in which you see the person and then them set off the fireworks on a packed city bus full of people. So of course it didn't take them too long to identify the person responsible. But the fact that people actually think it's funny to do it, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Shenanigans, people, shenanigans. Ooh, my parts got dropped off at the post office. I ordered the Pusha Bear kit for my printer. So when I end up putting it inside the printer cabinet, I'm gonna upgrade it and stiffen it and everything. Printer case. The tower? Or something else? Because the... Oh, the thermal printer for the project? That case? No, I haven't edited that yet. Probably do that later-ish, eventually. Probably gonna focus more on the scanner. Because I did that power supply board, I have to make another edit to the thing. It's mostly ready to go for its next revision. I just haven't printed it. But I haven't done the revision to the printer yet. The two big things for the printer is actually, let's see. Close that. That closed. That I can leave. That I can disappear. Don't do that. That can stay open. So I have to finish running the traces for these, and then I can order my revisions. What else? Got that done. That's done. Just I have sticky notes on my monitor that I'm just going through and making sure to add those connectors. And I need. Those regulators. And then more than likely, by the time all the parts arrive for the Ethernet PoE, because I got enough parts coming for Ben's order, because I was expecting to have boards by now. And what do you call it? Crap, I lost my train of thought. So it'll take a while to get the PoE regulators and whatnot, and the cables. Chances are by the time most of those start arriving, I can already have the Oxus Black tested, and could probably even get an order in fast enough. That I could ship it all out in one go if you end up wanting those. Let's see here. So, so this is the thermal printer case. The positioning for the opening is correct and works perfectly. The latching was slightly off, so I might increase tolerances on it a little bit to make it a little easier to fit in, although I'm recalibrating my printer, so that might help. I know the other thing that needs to be fixed is the opening here. This is supposed to hold the login RFID. That is too tight, so that needs to be fixed. Everything else was fairly good on that. Then you have this lower base plate, and this holds the lock in place. So that worked fine. The issue is that, so it's got one hole down there, and it's got another one hidden by the lock. They go into, so there's captive nuts that are slotted into here. So that holds that lower section to the front panel, and it works well. The only issue is I thought I could reach those with a driver. I cannot. So I kind of have to come up with a different solution for that. My one thought is to put a hole in the back and simply run the screwdriver all the way through and then fill the hole back in with like a cap or something, or hot glue. I do have black hot glue that I could potentially use. Not the nicest way to do it, in my opinion. Granted, you could potentially, so with the lid, you could potentially design the lid to come all the way down, and then eliminate the entirety of this backside, and it would simply move that way. The other problem is these holes don't line up properly. So these ones are in the proper place. These ones actually need to get shifted over like a couple millimeters. Same with the power port. It needs to go up and over. And then the other problem is the sides of this panel are way too flimsy, so they need to be thicker to stop them from moving around. Tolerance should be tighter to stop it from wiggling. And then the other problem that I'm not entirely sure how to overcome is the lock itself has slack, which is not helping. The one thing that I know also needs to change is is these side panels should definitely come, at least this section here and that section there should come up high enough that if I move that and show that, you can see that. Nope. Where's this button? Oh, that one. It should come up higher to pretty much hit exactly. I'm kind of hoping that if the tolerance of this was tighter and if this was thicker so that it can't bend, that it would stop it from moving around. I also, yeah. I think that can help it. Maybe. And then hopefully then it won't have issues. Yeah, I was definitely not expecting it to move around as much as it does. But I think if I tighten up the tolerances so that it's like a slick fit, the lock itself's own movement shouldn't cause it to rattle as much as it currently does, because it moves around enough that you could essentially rip it off. Granted, the whole design in itself is what do you call it? It's plastic. The lock is to keep people honest, essentially. Yeah, so it needs a few revised changes. Open up the scanner. No, so the lock itself, it's just like a retaining piece. So it's got essentially a wire piece. So it just, the latch itself has yeah, similar to a curb bonnet, but there's nothing opposing it or holding it. The metal piece, when it's locked together, is just capable of moving that. Oh, here's the lid. So it's just got this loop of wire welded to a plate, and there's slack inside the mechanism, which is pretty much the same as a curb bonnet mechanism, so it can rattle around. But these side panels are way too flimsy, so that's one problem. So because like the lid cannot flex, that is thick. Even the lower section here, like that is not moving. So I think if I make this bottom come all the way down, it'll make it, if I make this come all the way around, that'll make it easier to put those screws in, or at least come part way down. It'll make it easier to get at the screws that mount the whole assembly. The other thing I picked up is I'm going to use this for the scanner because the captive nuts weren't entirely working. Just you got tight tolerances and spacing in the new scanner, so I've gone through and revised the scanner. Yeah, I could potentially do that. I'll play around with it. So I moved the power switch back a little further, added extra bolt holes to keep everything nice and together, which also helps take out some of the small amount of warp that you sometimes get with a 3D print. Did the same for the lid, added extra screw holes. I've cleaned up the models for the resin printed parts because they had a few flaws on them, so I cleaned them up a bit so that they can print nicer with less issues. Also added these parts that stick out so that this piece doesn't rattle inside. And then, so this has bolts here, and initially this was just a complete rectangle. I've cut it out so that you can slide the halves apart from each other. This clear window for the barcode scanner, I'm going to take some plexiglass over to my local library. They have a laser cutter, and I'm going to do that there. And I should have more than enough space in here to put the power supply board, but I'll create a mount so that it can mount to this. So the whole point of this inner board is that I can mount everything to it really nicely and then run all the cables and zip tie them up all nice. And that way, as I do debugging and programming, it's all attached to one piece, and then you can just shove the clamshell together, and it just keeps things all nice and neat. The other side of the handle has the switch mount points. But so what I'm going to test, I tried using them years ago, and I wasn't having much luck with them, but I know they've gotten better, and by buying a tool, I'm hoping that it will be much, much better. Is I picked up a tool to do the heat set inserts. So I'm going to try and do some threaded inserts on the scanner because I think it will help it assemble better. So. But I've mostly just been working on the circuit boards first before doing the next revision of this and printing it. And I gotta finish calibrating my printer. Yeah. Yeah, so finish that up tomorrow. Going to the movies tomorrow as well. And then as soon as I get some funds, I can put in my GLC order. And then I'll put my second GLC order in once this is designed. I'm seeing the next animated Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse, I think. Yeah. How's that doing? A little toasty, but not bad. Yeah, like the regular screen I have on the wall, I have it at like 8% backlight, and you can't see that, and it still is bright. Under like 23, this thing is too dark. It's got a really terrible backlight curve, but still really capable, which is really nice. Yeah, that's probably what I'd keep. Actually, I'd probably keep it slightly higher than that. Yeah, neat. Yeah. Yeah, you might want to adjust its low-level parameters. To be honest, you'd probably want to limit your high-end too. Using it above like 80, I imagine, is gonna suck some serious power. 35? Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Let's see, paypal.com. Yes, the other plus screen can do that too. When you're not actively displaying, I find turning backlight off can help. But yeah. I almost think we need a mode in the firmware to make the screen black when it's off. Not just turn the backlight off, but actually clear the tiles at the same time. Gosh. I don't understand how people can drive like that. That is ridiculous. I know people like tint on their cars and whatnot, but obviously we have rules for a reason. But there's been a few cars lately, they're pulling them over, and they're not just having the side tint that lets in like 5%, but they're doing their windshields. This one car's got 6% of the light is passing through. Like, that is ridiculous. And then I know the other reason people like tint is the thermals that it provides, because there are tints that can block IR heat from the sun. But you can also get those in the matter of very limited tint rating, so that you're not blocking all the light. And the big thing that a lot of people tend to forget, and I use this for myself when riding my bikes and whatnot, is that if I can't see you, I'm sure it's crap ain't going. I'm not running the risk that you're either going to jump the stop sign or that you are attempting to wave at me and be like, no, go ahead. No, I'm going to go first, or whatever. Also, pet peeve for stop signs is don't be nice. Do what you're supposed to do. It's a lot better if you drive in the expected manner rather than trying to be nice to people. Makes things go a lot smoother if you do what you were supposed to do in the first place. Now, the last set of boards. I think that was last year. Oh my god, has it really been a year? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there are the costs. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. I think that's pretty much it for me today. I was up early today. Oh. Surprised that I didn't end up actually needing a nap. Let's see. Let's power that off. This can go back into its case. Bench there, and then PoE. Yep, I can agree. And then also with this newest PoE regulator, is it makes it very easy for other panels to be supported, because you essentially just need an adapter that connects to the GST. Makes it a very easy way to do it all. I don't have to carry numerous different boards. Actually, that reminds... Yeah, because... so the other thing with this PoE board is so it supports passive PoE, but it's the 48 volt passive, not the DIY PoE. But yeah, can always use an injector and passively power it. Oh, all good. I do just want to get these boards done. It doesn't hurt to just show me streaming it. And yeah, don't worry, you can sleep on it. The only reason well, part of the reason for doing it is just so that I can bundle your order with Ben's. Silly me, ordered the wrong item. Although granted, at least in my case, I can reuse the few that I bought for my own use, because I don't have any sizing constraint that you and Ben have, so I'll still be able to put them to use. Okay. Plug the soldering iron. That's what I still have to do. I have to get some smoke plugs. Well, my plan. Well, granted, I want to fix up the electrical. I'm using a big power bar here, and it sort of works, but not enough space for everything. And it takes up a lot of my desk space with the power bar set up the way it currently is. But my plan is to put like things like my soldering iron, the 3D printer, the soldering oven on smoke plugs, and then link them to my what do you call it? Tower lights, so that I know if anything hot is on, or if it's on but it's not hot, that kind of thing. Okay, I think that is it for me. Don't think I'm gonna do any routing on this tonight. I think I'm gonna watch a little TV and then go to bed. Oh, you're rebooting the server. Yeah. I've only been streaming 3.5 hours? Really? That's it? Oh my goodness. I thought I've been doing this for a while. That's the last of my juice too. Yeah. Okay. Well, cheers.